What is going on, you guys? Welcome back to Down to the Wire. I'm your host, Brian Kostiw, and today I have got a great episode in store for you. Today on the show, we will cover the Celtics' Game 6 loss and ultimate defeat in the NBA Finals to the Golden State Warriors. We'll make sure to break down all the latest storylines from the game and so much more. We will also be discussing the latest on the return of Red Sox ace Chris Sale and get a little perspective on his rehab process. And finally, we will conclude today by breaking down the newest reports out of Baltimore on quarterback Lamar Jackson and his search for a new contract. Obviously, this is a lot to cover today, so I am lucky enough to be bringing back a special guest to the show. He, of course, once again, is a former minor league pitcher for the Mariners, Pirates, and Diamondbacks organizations, and now hosts the Too Tall Sports podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show, Mr. Brett Lorin. Brett, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Brian. Glad to be back with you. And I know it's been a while since we last talked, but I'm happy to be on with you and talk some sports. So thank you for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the last time we had you on, we were in the midst of football season. It was kind of like back in the winter. So obviously It's been way too long, but I am very glad to have you back on the show today. I'll kind of just jump right into it with you. Obviously, NBA Finals were last night. Celtics hoping to, push for a Game 7, ended up falling short and lost to the Golden State Warriors 103-90. Crazy game, obviously, going on there. Celtics really never looked like they had a shot. But from your perspective, what were your takeaways from the game?
I think this one was the most meaningful championship for this Warriors group. First, I'll start with them because this was the post-KD era. 2 years of being one of the, at least 1 year, they were one of the worst teams in the league.
Yeah.
They missed the playoffs the last 2 years, kind of the devastating injuries to Clay that happened, during the 2019 finals. And then the year after where he couldn't play. So this one felt like the original core was back together. Everyone was healthy. And it's still the Warriors league when they're right. And so I felt like this one mattered the most. Steph got the elusive finals MVP that everybody thought he needed for validation, which he didn't. And now all of a sudden he's in the conversation for top 10 of all time. So a lot of things happened there just with winning that title. But I think this one meant the most from where they were the last few years to they might go on another dynastic run. So I'd say for the Warriors side, to start with them, very impressed with the Warriors.
No, honest to God. I mean, as a Celtics fan, I'll explain my disappointment in a second, but you kind of have to give hats off to the Warriors and the way they performed in this finals. They show that, when they're healthy, they still are that team to be reckoned with. And like you said, I think that it did mean the most for them because I think when they won it, they were obviously young and they were, just kind of, getting about their business and going to it. I mean, they made 5 straight NBA finals during their run. So what they were doing was historic when they were, on their demolition tour. I don't know how to better describe it, but they were just like absolutely dominating teams. And I think for them, they kind of lost sight on, how difficult it is to probably make it to this point. I mean, obviously when you're in it, you realize, all right, this isn't an easy thing, but I think they ended up going, all right, we won 3 championships and it was a grind, but we were able to kind of run the league for a little bit here. I think when they realized, oh shoot, the injuries really take a toll on you. Oh wow, we're one of the worst teams in the league, and having to battle back, having people say, I don't know about this Warriors team anymore. I think they're old. I think all the tricks are gone from them now. I think for them, they really were able to kind of just emotionally say, all right, like we understand now, like as mature people, we understand like how difficult this truly is.
Well, also, I have to give kudos to the organization and the GM, Bob Myers, like putting together a team. I mean, think about this. They traded for Andrew Wiggins, who was teetering on bust. You know what I mean? Former #1 overall pick. And he became an all-star starter this year. That organization, when you go there, it's like going to the Patriots. I hate to bring up another Boston of one of your teams, but when you go there, there's an expectation level and you have to step your game up to get to their level. And now they got the most out of Wiggins. They developed Jordan Poole, who could have been most improved player of the year. You got guys like Kuminga coming and Moody and even James Wiseman, who's a top pick, didn't even play this year, barely, So they are so well run and everybody knows their role. Gary Payton II all of a sudden is a contributor. They
Otto Porter even had moments.
Otto Porter just won a freaking ring, dude. A washout from the Wizards. They have figured out how to make everybody a star in their role. And they defend and they can shoot and they do everything the right way. they have figured out how to make an organization run. And so it's nice to see. It's like when the Spurs were doing it. It's just everything is right with that organization, and they get the most out of their guys. So I got to give kudos to the organization too.
No, absolutely. You really do have to kind of give hats off to them. So, I mean, well, you can make the case for, characters like guys like Draymond Green and Klay Thompson having words. At the same time, they have probably at this point, they've earned the right to be in this situation. And
Definitely.
they are absolutely dynamite for these guys. And like you said, like obviously guys like Jordan Poole, like Wiggins, who just was a dog this entire playoffs. I mean, that was awesome. I don't think he was teetering on bust. I think people had accepted that he was a bust, and at least for the expectations that were had of him, it was like, you know what, this guy just isn't it. He's a bust. Let's just move on with it. He'll make a couple million bucks in the NBA and just have his day. But he really, proved the stripes and, showed that he actually can perform up to that standard. I mean, he locked up Jayson Tatum throughout this entire series and was awesome for this group.
Yeah, he definitely was. And I think sometimes we forget where you go matters. It happens in the NFL a lot, like quarterbacks. What organization you land with does matter about the trajectory of what your career is going to be. You could be Andrew Luck, who's a can't miss prospect, and you go to an organization at the time that didn't really give you a lot to work with. Or you can be, Patrick Mahomes, who gets to go to the Chiefs. Everything is there. Now he's phenomenal, but it pays to have structure and a good foundation that you get to walk into. So when Wiggins went to Minnesota, not a great, well-run organization up until recently. They never make the playoffs, but now you go to a championship organization, you are required to step up your game. So I think it does matter where you go.
Yeah. And I think the comparison you gave to the Patriots is a good one too. I mean, I've been saying, I was kind of taking that back a little bit because of, the personalities. And I think, while Steve Kerr lets those personalities fly and lets that fuel them, Bill Belichick kind of suppresses it and, kind of keeps it on the down low. But I think in terms of the taking talent that has kind of been disgruntled in other areas and, maximizing their potential, that's something that rings very true of the Patriots when they played, in the midst of their dynasty. I mean, I think of guys like Aqib Talib, Corey Dillon being brought in, they were, outstanding. They had great flashes on their other teams, but then Bill Belichick kind of unlocked them in a sense.
How about Darrelle Revis leaving the Jets that never win anything? He shows up, they win a Super Bowl as soon as he gets there,
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, that's a great example as
Randy Moss. Yeah.
100%. People thought he was just burning out in Oakland and then comes here and completely revived his legacy and career.
Yes.
So that's 100% what the Warriors have done. I mean, it's unbelievable. So, I mean, again, I have to give hats off to them. It's congratulations to them. It's scary now that the fact that the Warriors are running the NBA again, they are now the champs. So that's something to be very mindful of. How do you feel about them moving forward?
Yeah, I think they're still in their primes. I don't think this is it for them. No. They have the young pieces. They have the perfect mix of veterans, and they're a little bit small outside of Wiseman. Like Kevon Looney's a decent little role player, but like that, he's not like your new age center person. Yeah. These days. We'll see what they do with Wiseman. I think they can move Wiseman for somebody else that can help them. They have plenty of length as far as like wing defenders. They have it like perfect with that. Poole, Wiggins, Clay. They got all that. Kuminga as an athlete. They don't really need to add too much. I'm sure they will, but I don't see them. I think they got another 3 years of running time with this team. So I think we'll see them again next year.
I think you're definitely right about that. I mean, obviously, like you said, after this final, Steph Curry wins Finals MVP, which in the postgame presser, he ended up saying, "Who cares? We're the champs." Like to him, he this really maybe on a personal, like deep down level, he cares a little bit about it, but he's not going to let that show and be like, "Oh my God, I won my Finals MVP." He's probably like, "Hey, I battled back from an injury and I'm a champion again, and I proved it to you." So right. I think he's more proud about that moment. But like you said, people are now saying that he's in the top 10, greatest of all time conversation now. Kendrick Perkins tweeted out that, he's now at the table with LeBron, Jordan, Bird, all those greats. What is your stance on that?
Yeah, I think it's hard to, when you do top 10s, it's like, okay, well, who do you take out if you're going to put him in the top 10? It's really tough to say. Like there's different eras, there's different, times when guys were dominant, but man, Steph with the 4 rings and the 2 MVPs and the Finals MVP is fine, but like that puts you in a different class. Shaq's got 4, LeBron's got 4 rings. So he's in the conversation now. He's never going to be the greatest player of all time, but should we have a spot in the top 10 for the greatest shooter of all time? Hands down. I think he does need to be in there at some point.
I mean, I think he just is the greatest shooter now.
Yeah. So how do we not keep that guy out of the top 10, you know?
Yeah. I mean, he's the best shooter of all time. And then he's also, I'd have to say at this point, probably the most influential at this point, I'd have to say.
Yeah.
If not in the top 3 of that conversation, I'd have to say. So,
Right.
I mean, at a certain point, I know everyone's jumping on Curry now and is saying like, oh my God, he has to like be in this conversation. But I mean, he has earned his stripes to this point. So maybe once all the fanfare dies down, we'll be able to take a more legitimate look at it. But I think after this, you do have to at least consider him in that conversation now.
Yeah. And also, like, LeBron's a lot closer to the end than Steph is. Steph's like 33, 34. I feel like he's got a lot of time left to still cement that legacy even further. But even if you want to put him in now, he's kind of now reached that level of like elite elite comparisons to the greats of all time.
Yeah. And I think what does that for him too is that obviously he won the first championship by himself, took LeBron and those Cavs out. Obviously they dealt with injuries, so you could have made a case with that. And then the other 2 championships he had KD. But what this one proved is that Steph Curry, once again, as the sole offensive producer for a team, can get you to a championship. He proved that again, and I think that speaks numbers in this conversation as well.
Yeah. And he definitely, like, this was a statement win for him on the road. You know, like, I think the last time they were in Boston a couple games ago, he dropped like 43. So this was like a big time, silence the crowd. It was his moment to shine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, he went out there and he showed it. To juxtapose that, the Celtics did not show it over these past 3 games. They had a great showing through the first 4. I mean, it looked very reminiscent of the Celtics series that we had been seeing up until this point, to where, they just seemed very, they always just seemed like it was kind of flip a coin in terms of the team you were going to see that night. If they went down a game, you always felt that they were going to bounce back and not just come back stronger, but you just felt like they were going to come out there and absolutely dominate the next night and just completely obliterate the opposition, which was really what they did in those first 2 games, where they won game 1 pretty handily. Game 2, they ended up going down and wasn't great. Game 3, they win by, I think, 16 points. And then after the game 4 loss, you're thinking, oh, they're going to go back to Golden State, have somewhat of a reassurance, and just never showed up after that. So I thought it was going to look more like that, but, kind of fell apart there.
Yeah. After that 2-1 lead, I think the Warriors figured them out a little bit. And I think the strategy changed. And what happened was Boston couldn't score in the half court. No. So in game 1, you had Al Horford who couldn't miss, and you had Marcus Smart who couldn't miss. And then as the series goes on, their contributions got less and less and less. And I think Marcus Smart was playing too much to the refs. I think he was flopping too much. I think they were so concerned with the refs helping them versus being on the attack. And, obviously, the Warriors defense was phenomenal. Like, they were swarming defensively. And so Tatum and Brown, they had their moments during the series, but let's remember how young they are, right? Yeah. Tatum's only 24. So I don't want people to come at this guy like he's not a superstar. He will be a superstar soon.
I mean, he frankly is a superstar, but I agree with what you're saying. So
they're really young outside of Horford. Like, they're young.
And I think you're generally seeing that in terms of the way that the Boston media is actually responding to this. I was listening to some sports talk radio today, and I was actually surprised in terms of the way that they were handling, because typically, obviously, Boston sports, talk and radio, very, very tough, and it's never too forgiving. But I was listening to some shows today, and they were saying, they were all just like very hopeful. And it was them just saying, listen, we got a young core here. It's a great team that we put around us. Obviously, they fell short of expectations, and we know that, but we honest to God think we can be back in this situation next year. And that was a take that really did surprise me.
I think that's actually the right way to look at it. You got a rookie head coach. You got Robert Williams, who, had some injuries coming into during the playoffs. And I think if you keep that young core together, you're going to have to get some pieces. They need a point guard, right? Marcus Smart is not a point guard. Let's just be real. Yeah. Usually the defensive player of the year is not a bring the ball up the floor guy. So he's really a 2. He's not a 1 as far as like the positions. I think you need to bring in a point guard. You need a little bit more shooting outside of Tatum and Brown. Like, you can't require Horford and Smart to make big shots all the time. Derek White was hit and miss. He's kind of a role player. You know, you need another guy that's going to help Tatum and Brown score the ball.
Yeah.
But I think point guard is number one need for them.
I could definitely agree with that. I was almost going to say get a more traditional center, but I think we've been okay with what we have. That was at least my concern going into the playoffs. That's kind of now been moved aside a little bit. I think point guard's definitely a need. But something that's obviously definitely going to be in need as well is for Jayson Tatum to step up in these big games. I mean,
sure.
I mean, obviously, again, he's a young kid.
He's young.
I mean, he's 3 years older than me. So I can't imagine being put in this situation and having to deal with all the pressures that come about that. But to all the people saying, oh, he's injured, he's dealing with all this, that's a fair point. But at the same time, I think the Celtics were one of the healthiest teams left in the playoffs at this point. I mean, sure, the Warriors were healthy and they had all their core guys together, but they were even missing a guy like Wiseman. They weren't perfectly healthy. For the Celtics, they basically had their whole team present.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing. I'm just like, all right, I just didn't know how to feel about it. And when I was watching the game 6, I thought I was going to be more mad than I thought I was actually going to be a lot more mad after the result. I thought I was going to be a lot more frustrated, but I was driving back from the friend's house I was watching it at, and I just felt not numb, but almost just kind of at peace with the defeat. And it was in a sense because I think, you know, as a Boston sports fan, obviously we've enjoyed the luxuries of a lot of championships, but we've also dealt with a lot of defeats in that run as well, especially during my lifetime. Obviously the Patriots Super Bowls, Game 7 versus the Lakers back in 2009. So there have definitely been some games where it hasn't gone our way. And I think those games hurt more because you feel like you could have been in them. The Eagles Super Bowl is definitely something like that too. And it hurts because you feel like you were in it. When you lose as badly as you do, you don't really feel like you were robbed of anything.
No, not at all. I think they're super young team. Usually it's a lot of these guys' first NBA finals. I don't think anybody has been in the finals on your team. Even Horford had never been there before. So you need experience. You can't substitute that, right? The Warriors have the championship experience. So as the series went along, you could just see, right, the fatigue setting in. You know, Tatum and Brown are playing a lot of minutes. So, and they don't have anybody to come in really off the bench and get buckets for them. So they need some bench help with that, but you usually don't win in your first finals. So I think the perspective is correct from what you were hearing today. A lot of optimism moving forward. Now they need to add pieces, but the road you guys had to go through, I mean, beating Miami, they were the 1 seed this year, beating Milwaukee, beating Brooklyn, you went through the gauntlet, a much tougher road than the Warriors went through. Let's be real. The Warriors didn't have to see the Suns. They got lucky playing against Luka and the Mavs. They had a banged up Ja Morant in the Memphis series. Their road was a lot easier than the Celtics road. So absolutely, I think there's a lot of positives there for the Celtics moving forward.
I definitely do too. I think that there are positives, but I think because of how tough the run was, I mean, we definitely had a tough run having to go through the defending champs. I mean, going through Brooklyn in the first round, I know we made it look easy, but they're a good cores. They're a good group as well. And they're going to be getting Ben Simmons as much as I think that Ben Simmons is heavily overrated. I think he'll help the team in some sense next year.
Yeah. But Miami beating them, they're tough. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That was a big hurdle for us as well. So I just don't know how it's going to look next year. Obviously, in the Buck series, we didn't have to deal with Chris Middleton on that squad. In the Miami series, Tyler Hero, who obviously is kind of a bench guy for them, he was out for some games, so we had to deal with that. The reports that Jimmy Butler was dealing with knee injuries throughout the series. He didn't look like it, but those were reports that were coming out. So
there's a little luck involved on both sides. You have to be the healthiest at the end. Yeah, but you guys had a tough road.
Absolutely. There's a tough road. And I think there's luck involved with every championship run. I think that, you have to get lucky in a sense. So I'm nervous about it, but I do think, if you had to make a bid within the next 5 years of saying, could the Celtics return to the finals? I'd have to say yes.
I think so. I think
if you don't, it's a failure. So I think you have to.
I think they have the best young nucleus that if they stay together and add some pieces, they will be a contender. They should be in the Eastern Conference Finals the next few years, as long as they progress the way they should. And again, rookie head coach. Think about that. You got a rookie head coach going against Steve Kerr, who's been in the finals how many times as a player and a coach?
Exactly.
They have championship DNA. It's just hard to beat that your first time in the finals.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's definitely tough. And I mean, Ime Udoka even said, after the game that he hopes this loss can propel the Celtics on to better things. Marcus Smart, I think even said something close to the likes of, all right, we got a taste of it, so now we want the whole thing.
Exactly.
So it definitely is a better sign than what we've seen from this Celtics team. I mean, I've said throughout this entire playoffs is that they kind of get heady is the way I kind of like to describe it, to where they kind of get in their own heads. I feel like they, sometimes can be emotional, and obviously they're younger, so they're going to be emotional in these situations. So
yeah, they made some bad decisions too. Like the turnovers was a huge problem, right? Tatum has the most turnovers ever in a playoffs postseason.
100.
Yeah.
That's
so obviously they got to take care of the ball.
Yeah. I mean, they definitely got to take care of the ball. That's something Tatum will have to work on.
Yeah.
Jaylen Brown, while I'll give him his props, I mean, he really did show up in these finals. At least he was our best player, dropped 34, same amount of points as Steph. But, obviously he has turnover issues too. I think that something I've heard and something I've reiterated is that he is the best basketball player ever that doesn't know how to dribble. And I will stand by that. And I think it's him and Al Horford are like almost kind of in a dead tie, because whenever I see Al Horford making his way up the court, dribbling the basketball, a turnover almost always ensues.
Yeah.
And that was the thing too. I mean,
you can't expect to win when you have more than 20 turnovers against the Warriors. Like giving them that many extra possessions. These are the best shooters of all time, arguably. Yeah. So it's like you can't give them extra possessions.
No, yeah, it's you cannot do that. And I mean, just like defensively things too, like you said, Ime, like rookie head coach. There were certain things in that series which I saw just weren't good opportunities. The switches of Al Horford onto Curry, sometimes voluntarily, which was
he got
weird.
Stuck on an island a lot, which is not good for you guys.
No, yeah. So I mean, that's something we'll have to look at too. But obviously it's definitely tough. But if you had to give a prediction for the Celtics, what would you probably say would be the case for them going into next year?
Yeah, I think if they add a point guard and a couple bench guys that can help, I think defensively they're one of the best. So I think you plug in a few guys into their system, but I think you got to get a point guard, someone that can really run the show. It's someone that's got some time in the league as well, a veteran. But I don't see why they can't get back to where they were this year. Like unless these other big teams add pieces, I don't think it's a great free agent class. So I could see the Celtics being right back there again next year.
Yeah. You've been saying at a point guard. Is there a guy on your mind that you think really, obviously I don't know. I don't know how deeply you are like looking into that.
The one I heard today was Malcolm Brogdon from Indiana, and they're not really going anywhere. So, and he's got his defensive, pretty good defensively too. I heard his name. But yeah, I was trying to think of what other guys they could go get that are young enough.
I've heard of Buddy Hield being thrown out there. That's another guy.
Not a true point guard, but a shooter.
Yeah, but that's something I've been hearing as well for them to possibly look into. So there are a lot of opportunities. I think that the Celtics team definitely has a lot of room to grow. While I thought I would be more frustrated, disappointed, obviously, I said on my Instagram post is the word of the day for myself, but I digress and we move on into MLB news, where there is some news happening in the Boston sports world. Not everything is revolving around the Celtics right now. There is some Red Sox news, and it is that Red Sox ace Chris Sale, who fractured his ribs in during spring training because he's built like a sheet of paper. I swear to God, I mean, dude just needs to eat a burger. Oh my God. It's so bad. I mean, he fractures his ribs. I don't know how, but he's making he's apparently rehabbing right now. He apparently pitched in a simulated game. I have an ESPN article up here talking about it. It said that he threw around 32 pitches in a simulated game at Fenway Park. He had 2 separate innings, and basically, Alex Cora said that he was around like 94 to 95 miles an hour, and his changeup was looking good. So that's some good signs there. Obviously, as kind of common like MLB fans, something we hear thrown around a lot in the rehab process is the words simulated game. And, obviously that can mean just like a handful of things. It can be like, not really, just not getting a great understanding. Brett, for someone like yourself who's had experience pitching in pro baseball, could you kind of give us a rundown of what goes on in a simulated game?
Sure. Yeah. So just off the top, a simulated game is basically live at bats with a pitcher versus the Red Sox hitters.
Yeah.
And it'll kind of have like the batting practice cage around them, basically. And it's just a live at bat. Sometimes the pitcher will tell the guy what's coming. And so even if they don't swing, just to get a look or to get a feel of pitching to a batter in the batter's box on the game mound, not just like a side bullpen mound, in the outfield. It's like as close to a game situation as you can get. Sometimes they'll have that, what they call the L screen, where, the batting practice pitcher hides behind that so they don't get hit right back at them. So it's a controlled scrimmage. That's basically what it is. But those are used when you get close to, he'll probably go to Worcester and get some innings after this, just to get some work in. And then you go to a live game, and then you can go back to the big leagues. But this is at least a good step, other than him just throwing bullpens all the time. I think this is at least, all right, we're getting closer now. So I would expect if everything goes well, he might do one or two of those, and then he'll be in AAA for a couple games, and then he'll be in the big leagues.
So for being able to deal with seeing people, interact with this kind of, simulated games before, and being on this kind of a timetable, what would you suspect would be a possible return date for Sale?
The hard part about starters is you have to build up their arm again for stamina and innings. So when he comes back, they're not going to let him go more than 75 pitches. So whether that's 4 or 5 innings, if you can make it through that, whatever. So starters are a little bit tough because you have to ramp up your stamina again to be able to pitch deep into ball games. So I expect, I would guess, obviously I don't know how they do things in Boston, but I would guess he's going to have 1 or 2 of those simulated games. He'll probably have a couple short starts in AAA, and then they may bring him up when he's ready to go 3 or 4 innings at the minimum at the big league level. Because you don't want to bring a guy up that's not ready to pitch as a starter, because you're going to wear out your bullpen, and it's going to ruin you for the next few days after that. So you need to make sure a guy is at least somewhat ready to give you 75 pitches, however many innings that turns into.
Yeah. I mean, something I've heard too is that Sale said that whether it was as a starter or reliever, he's just willing to get back into live games for Boston. So that's something too. Sure. If it wasn't a reliever role, how, soon would you probably expect it then?
Yeah, that's a lot easier, right? Because if it's 1 or 2 innings and that's all you're asked to do, you can come back a lot quicker than that. It's just, you probably need 1 or 2 games out of the pen in AAA and a rehab assignment, and you're back. So I think as a reliever, it's much easier to come back.
Yeah, I definitely say so too. Yeah. Obviously there's a lot that goes into that. Have you ever pitched in a simulated game?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I've had injuries, man. I've had to come back from stuff, it's just part of the rehab process. And, leading up to that, you don't just go back to that, right? If you have injuries, you got to, get in your throwing program again, do some flat ground work, which is basically doing your pitching motion with a catcher squatting down, but on flat ground. Then you move to the mound. This is for like a typical longer rehab. Then you get on the mound and throw like 15 to 20 pitches. That's one day. Then you do some side work, band work or lifting weights or your physical therapy stuff. And then you do 20 to 25 pitches for another bullpen. Then you get up to 30 to 35. And then we get the simulated game. And then you get the rehab assignment, then you get to the big. So it's a process depending on your injury, whether it's arm or, for him, fractured rib. I don't know what the process is for that. I've never had one of those. I've had injuries that are like groin strains or, hip injuries or, shoulder soreness, whatever it is. So it depends on your injury.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, Chris Sale's just had some odd injuries throughout his time here in Boston. And I mean, listen, he's also had, some fantastic moments here too. So I don't want to, not gonna knock Chris Sale for anything.
No, when he's right, he's unbelievable.
Oh yeah, but he's definitely had some weird injuries. I mean, I remember during the 2018 postseason, he had a belly button infection from a ring or something. He's had some
baseball. Tell me, Brian, baseball's got the best injuries of all time, right?
Oh yeah, I didn't
off the field.
Oh yeah, didn't Sammy Sosa pull his back out while sneezing or something one time?
Slipping out of the shower.
Oh yeah. No, you get some of the weirdest injuries.
A dog bite. Yeah.
Oh yeah. R.A. Dickey got a hangnail and couldn't pitch because of it. It's like, geez, some of the things you hear so, from an outsider giving baseball players grief. If you didn't if you were as someone who's a baseball fan, if you take yourself out of it, you kind of go, all right, I get where the criticism's coming from with this.
Sure.
But, no, it does all those little things. It does make the difference.
Right. And also if you look at a guy, an on-field guy that always gets hurt, like a Steven Strasburg, right? I think it just simply, and maybe it's with Sale too, the way these guys throw, it's just whether their mechanics just don't work as far as body longevity. So some of these guys can't stay healthy because simply of the way they throw and the way they pitch in their mechanics. So there's a lot that has to go right. You got to take care of your body. You got to eat right. You got to get rest and recovery. There's a lot of it, and it's a long season, right? It's almost a game every day for baseball. It's hard to stay healthy for 162 games.
No, yeah. I think I've heard it. I think I've heard it before that like throwing a fastball in the MLB is essentially the equivalent of hanging like a bowling ball off the back of your arm.
Your arm is not meant to go forward in that direction. That's why softball pitchers can pitch every day. Your arm is meant to go underneath anatomically. It's not meant to go over the top. So that's why guys get hurt, because it's not natural.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, it's ridiculous. So
yeah,
obviously, hopefully Chris Sale can get back and help this Red Sox team. They definitely kind of need him in my opinion. I mean, they've been putting together some good games lately, but I think that, he's only going to be a plus for this team.
If you're going to catch the Yankees, you need him.
Yeah, that's the thing. So that's going to be very, very big for us. So hopefully he's able to get back in that area. Obviously, as we start to wrap this up, we are going to probably now switch over into NFL news. And in doing so, we're going to be covering Baltimore Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson. He's searching for a new contract now at this point. And, it came out recently that he missed some OTA activities with the team. He said that had nothing to do with the contract, and it's mostly he just said like family issues. But at the same time, speculation's always going to fly. I mean, listen, let's just be frank here. He has this year on his deal, and I believe it's come out that if he was to go to free agency, the Ravens would franchise tag him for that next year. So I think they at least have him for 2 more full seasons of control. So the Ravens probably think they're in an okay position right now, but they definitely don't want this thing to get out of hand and have to pay like a king's ransom to the guy. So for Lamar Jackson right now, you ended up saying that he doesn't have his own agent. So he's kind of negotiating on his own behalf. What's your kind of take on the whole situation?
I think he and Kyler Murray in very similar situations. It's like, are they good enough to get the max money? Now, Lamar does have an MVP, so he can at least come to the table with that. Yeah. And he's been pretty successful overall. Playoffs struggles are there for sure, but overall, he's had a better career than Kyler Murray has. So
100%.
If I was going to Murray's a better thrower, but overall, Lamar's been pretty damn good. They're in a similar situation. These running quarterbacks, they want to get paid before they get hurt. They want the big contract before they get hurt. And some of these guys are more qualified than others that have gotten paid before. You got guys like Matt Ryan, Jared Goff, it's almost like whoever's turn it is, they get the big money. Yeah. Matthew Stafford, before he won the Super Bowl, a lot of these top picks have gotten paid. Lamar should be a franchise quarterback. I believe he's earned that right. You got Dak Prescott got big money. He's never been close to a Super Bowl. So there's a lot of guys that have gotten paid that haven't accomplished what Lamar has accomplished. So for him to sit out, and a lot of guys have done this to get their money. Ezekiel Elliott's done this, when you talk about running backs too, lots of guys have done this. So I don't blame him for trying to get the money early, because as a running quarterback, you are going to take hits. Look at Cam Newton. He's just, since that MVP season, he's not the same guy. So
no, not even close. I mean, I had firsthand experience with it when he was the quarterback of the Patriots. No, when he was the quarterback of the Pats. That nightmare.
Yeah, no, exactly. Geez. Right. So I think these guys see their, what their careers could turn out to if they keep taking hits. So they want to get paid early. That's at least my thought of it so far. I don't know. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think it's a very similar sentiment. I mean, it's just about guys getting the money early, so that way they aren't, going to have to deal with that. I mean, it's similar to running backs, and I think in a sense, especially with these mobile quarterbacks. Mahomes is in a different sense because he has a cannon arm, so that's something completely
and
different.
He's already won a Super Bowl.
Yeah, exactly. So he has that proven for himself.
Yeah.
With Lamar Jackson, I mean, obviously the throwing has improved, but it hasn't necessarily gotten anywhere remarkable. So, I mean, I don't expect it to be anything at that sort, because, he's probably only capable of so much. It's funny. I was at Bryant a couple, months ago, and they brought in this lady from the Baltimore Ravens. She actually works in the stats department there. And what they do is they analyze some of the, advanced, movements and metrics with the players. And one thing that they were breaking down was, Lamar Jackson's throwing mechanic. And they basically were crediting themselves for, improving his throwing mechanic and turning him into a better passing quarterback. I rebut that though by saying it still needs to improve.
Sure.
So I mean, it's still nothing great yet. So I mean, obviously what he can do on the ground is remarkable. And even, last year he wasn't close to his MVP self that he was in 2019, but he was still pretty damn good.
Right.
So I think the problem at this point is just saying, can this on the ground mobile style offense last with Lamar Jackson? Is he going to be able to, last into his 30s and stay that kind of a guy? Or is he going to have to morph more into, like I don't know. I think Aaron Rodgers is a decent example of it, to where, take out Rodgers' arm. Rodgers was pretty mobile early on in his career, and he was able to move around a lot. More in his later years, though, he's had to become more of that drop back quarterback. He still has mobile elements, but it definitely isn't as much as it used to be.
Right. I would agree with that.
Is Lamar Jackson able to do that? At this point, I don't think so.
I don't think that's his game. You know what I mean? No. And you could also argue like they lost Hollywood Brown, like the lack of receiver help they have. I mean, it's pretty much the tight end Mark Andrews and what after that, so they're going to have to really commit to bringing receivers in to force him like, hey, we got a lot of talent on the outside now. You can trust these guys and deliver the ball downfield. So yes, as he gets older, he will probably run less, but that's his game, right? That's what he's good at. He's hard to tackle sometimes. So I bring up Kyler Murray again, same thing, right? Like those type of players, you don't want to take that away from them because that's what they do well. It's just, can you get the most out of them in the pocket to keep them healthy and to be comfortable committing big money to a guy like that who can hopefully stay on the field. So I don't blame him for trying to get his money, but when you come to the table multiple years before it's time, the team doesn't have to budge. Why do they need to do that? You know what I mean? Other than it's not really a great PR look to not take care of your guy, but like, we don't have to make a move yet. The NFL is notorious for they can cut you at any time, right? And get rid of that salary because it's an injury-plagued league. So if I'm the Ravens, do I have to commit now? No, we can play hardball. So it's up to them.
No, absolutely. And I think for Lamar too, as he moves on, like, frankly, with these mobile quarterbacks I don't know if there's like any of these big contracts for these notoriously mobile guys that have truly worked out. The only thing I could think of is probably Mike Vick when he went to Philly.
Yeah.
But even when he went there, obviously he still was, Mike Vick, but he did incorporate more passing into his game, and he definitely showed off a lot of his arm. Lamar doesn't have that luxury. So I just don't know if the Ravens are going to be able to say, all right, we really trust Lamar here. Let's give him a 5-year deal and see what he can be. I don't know how Lamar is going to look at the end of that deal.
I agree with you on that. The only argument in his case is like, you could argue he's better than Jimmy Garoppolo. He's better than Dak Prescott. He's better than Jalen Hurts. He's better than, he's a top, and he's a top half quarterback. I would probably say. Maybe is he better than Kirk Cousins? Like, there's a lot of guys that are getting paid already that he's better than.
Yeah, and a lot of that system too. So I mean, like, obviously the Ravens are run heavy system. So that's
what they lost, like 3 or 4 running backs last year. They were the most injury plagued team going into the season. So if they get everybody healthy, they'll be much better. He should be better too.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that, when people are saying, oh, Lamar Jackson is like a top half guy, and I think people kind of get taken aback with that because they do say, well, he was an MVP. He did do all this. And frankly, he's only a couple years removed from that. That's not like, he's not that far off from that. So
he's right around the middle of the pack.
Yeah. So I think that's part of determining what his worth is going to be. Where do you probably see him lining up around?
Like, as far as where he ranks?
Yeah,
man, because you can hit the first 10 really quickly, right? I mean, Mahomes, Josh Allen, Rodgers, Brady, who else?
Throwing Wilson in there?
Yeah, Russell Wilson, you could throw him in there. Who else am I forgetting that's top 10 quarterback? I'm trying to think. What other teams am I missing? Justin Herbert, I would take him over Lamar.
Yeah.
Who else is in the division there? Derek Carr. You kind of have to take Derek Carr maybe over him as well.
Maybe. I mean, for the system that he's in, yeah, but I don't know. If you throw Derek Carr on the Ravens, I don't think they'd be nearly as successful a team.
Maybe it's a different style of team for sure.
I think Derek Carr and Lamar are definitely products of their location. So I think swap them, and the teams that they're on would probably get worse. I mean,
right.
I don't think
Stafford's up there.
Yeah, Stafford's definitely on that list. So
Right.
it's definitely a complex list of guys to look at. So I think Lamar definitely, I think the Ravens will probably give him his contract extension, but where he's going to fall, I think he's going to ask for a lot. And I think he's probably going to be disappointed in the amount that he does get.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, they don't have to pay him yet. So I think
No.
the only way to if you prove it on the field, you give that, you make them pay you, right? Remember Joe Flacco when he won the Super Bowl, they didn't want to pay. And then it's like, oh, he won a Super Bowl. Okay, we'll give him huge money. He sucked after that. But he got his money because he proved it, So the only way to prove your worth is to win on the field. And that's what he needs to do.
And that's the thing. That's the thing I've noticed with a lot of contracts. My grandfather always said this to me is that, the contracts pay you for what you did. They don't pay they don't pay you for what you're going to do.
Right. Baseball is different in that regard. They pay the superstars young because of the projectability 10, 12 years out. Football is, what have you done for me already? We reward you for that. If you brought the franchise a lot of money with a lot of playoff wins and a Super Bowl, then we'll pay you. Or like I said with the quarterbacks, if it's your time, the market says it's your turn to get paid. I just don't know if it's Lamar's turn yet to get that kind of money.
Yeah, I'm skeptical about that too. So we're obviously going to have to see. These are reports that are just kind of coming in now. So this is obviously going to be building on. But Brett, thank you so much for coming on to the show again, man. It was great having you on today.
Sure, anytime, man. It was great to see you again. Thanks for having me on, and glad to do it.
Absolutely. So obviously now we are going to be going down to the wire. So we're going to do a quick little run through what we talked about in this episode and wrap things up for y'all. We started things in by welcoming back in Brett Lorin to the show. We discussed the latest on the NBA Finals, the Golden State Warriors winning their 4th championship in the past 8 years. We discussed Jayson Tatum's atrocious showing, as well as Ime Udoka. I mean, listen, it's an atrocious showing. It was
all right.
Bad.
He still averaged like 20 something a game, though.
Like 21, I think he did.
All right.
Listen, he's a good player. I mean, he 13 points in game 6. You can't have that.
I'm with you on that.
Let me say that. He's a young player. I'm excited for what he's going to do. I was wearing a Tatum shirt last night, but he had a bad finals. He had a bad finals. So,
all right.
I mean,
that's fair.
Listen, plenty of good players. I mean, LeBron James lost his first finals to the Spurs. They
got swept.
Yeah. So, I mean, let this serve as a good learning example for him. Hopefully he can move on from there and, only improve.
I think he'll only improve. Sorry to mess up your down to the wire there. It was funny.
By no worries. We also talked about Ime Udoka, talking about how the team could probably propel forward and, gave future expectations for the team. We also kind of, took time to, really reflect on Steph Curry, the greatness that he provided for this team. And, another quick word on him is, while Clay and Draymond, say their stuff and talk their trash, Steph Curry, for the most part, really just says the right thing all the time. He really is selfless. I mean, while I could get mad at guys like Draymond and get mad at Clay for the comments they made, I was really never mad at Steph throughout this series.
No, how can you hate on that guy, man?
No,
think about that. He's a kid from Davidson that became the best shooter of all time.
And I mean, the thing too is he's the best shooter of all time, and he's not a selfish player.
No. How many guys would let another superstar like Kevin Durant come in and be the guy? And then all of a sudden he leaves and now you're the guy again, and he's totally fine with it. All they want to do is win. It's not about the individual accolades. It's all about winning there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Which, I mean, you got to respect it to a certain point. I mean, it's, incredible what they've been able to build out there, and it's scary that they're going to be continuing that on.
I think they have more to go there. I don't think they're done.
I think you make a good point. So that's going to be pretty scary for the foreseeable future. In MLB news, we talked about the return of Chris Sale as he makes a simulated game. Brett gave us a little breakdown on, what goes on in that aspect. And finally, in NFL news, we broke down Lamar Jackson and his contract extension, at least his search for one. So we're going to be, we talked about that, and it was a great conversation. Obviously, Brett, thank you so much again for coming on. But if you guys are not following Down to the Wire at this point, what are you guys doing? You guys can follow us everywhere you guys can stream podcasts, whether that be on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and more. The video stream of this show is also available on our YouTube page, and you can find all of those links, all of them, in the link in our bio in our Instagram at down.tothewire on Instagram. Again, at down.tothewire on Instagram. Brett, I'll let you shout out your own personal stuff as well before we head off.
Thank you. I appreciate it. At Too Tall, that's TOO Tall Sports Podcast. You can find me on Instagram, on TikTok, on Twitter. It's at Too Tall Sports. And it's on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. Wherever you get your podcast, just type in Too Tall Sports Podcast, and you will find all my episodes now. So thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So from Down to the Wire, I'm Brian Kostiw.
And I'm Brett Lorin.
And we hope you guys have a great day. Take care and peace out.